Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, 15th of August 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news with sport and business, and Sea Watch and travel updates, and the newsmakers in person. This evening, the steam packet made over £11 million last year. TT 2024 practice and race schedule's been released. The mountain course legend Dave Madsen-Migdal talks about the MGP, former Keys candidate in court over indecent images, and the beach wheelchair improves access at Peel.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update news headlines. Faster Mai, Chanel Suku.
Faster Mai. A former House of Keys candidate has appeared in court today, accused of possessing indecent images of children. David Anthony Fowler of Onken made his first appearance under police custody at Douglas Courthouse. The Isle of Man Steam Packet Company has recorded a significant uplift to its finances, posting profits of almost £11.1 million. And organisers of the Isle of Man TT races has confirmed the qualifying and race schedule for the event. It will begin on the 27th of May and run through until the 8th of June. In international news, Russia is claiming it's hit key military-industrial sites in western Ukraine during air attacks. Officials insist precision missiles were used. The number of people who do not have a job due to long-term sickness has risen to another record high. Official figures show nearly 500,000 people were off work in the 3 months from April to June. And politicians are going to be asked if their banks have ever threatened to shut their accounts down. The financial watchdog's investigating rules around MPs. Those were your headlines. News at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Jeremiah, thank you. Chanel from the Ronaldsway Met Office. No wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea is smooth or slight. Ben McCree just in the harbour, going astern onto the link span. And the weather this evening, dry with some late brightness, a light to moderate wind coming in from the southwest, down to 13 degrees through the night. Port Crane, dry with sunny periods tomorrow, a light variable breeze, and 20 degrees, overnight minimum 14 into Jardine. Thursday, of course, the MV Manxman's first paying passengers take a trip on Thursday, and it'll be dry and sunny with a light easterly up to 21 degrees, breezier later, and there'll be some rain from midday on Friday. Tides on the way out for just 40 minutes or so. Low waters at 10 past 6. Sunset 10 to 9 tonight. High tide 12 minutes after midnight. Sunrise 3 minutes before 6. And the morning low tide is at 8 minutes to 7.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com.
The Isle of Man Steam Packet Company has recorded a significant uplift in its finances, posting profits of almost £11.1 million. Here's Christian Jones.
The figures show a good set of results exceeding pre-pandemic levels and putting up an almost 450% increase to profits in comparison to its 2021 loss. The report, which is expected to be laid before Tynwald when they return from summer recess, shows £11,080,551 profit. The year before had a more than £3.2 million loss. Meanwhile, separate operations from the group show accounts are back in the black by £14.5 million, bouncing back from its 2021 figure of a near £500,000 loss. Operating expenses incurred by the organisation see staff costs, including wages and salaries, of roughly £15.5 million, £1.2 million spent on repairs and maintenance, and almost £14 million on fuel. Revenue again sees large boosts in comparison to 2021, sitting at £72.2 million, with the majority of that figure being generated from passenger and freight.
Organisers of the Isle of Man TT races have confirmed the qualifying and race schedule for next year, the 2024 event. Here's our sports editor Rob Pritchard.
TT 2024 will begin on Bank Holiday Monday the 27th of May and run through until Saturday the 8th of June. The racing fortnight will begin on the Monday with a free practice, followed by the first qualifying session the same day. Evening qualifying will then take place on the following 3 days, with the final qualifying slot during the afternoon of Friday the 31st of May. The first 2 race days will then take place on Saturday and Sunday the 1st and 2nd of June, with the first day seeing the Supersport TT Race 1 and Sidecar TT Race 1, with the Superbike race being held the following day. A rest day on Monday the 3rd of June will then be followed by 2 more double-header race days on the Tuesday and Wednesday the 4th and 5th of June. On Tuesday will be the Super Stock TT Race 1 and Super Twin TT Race 1. The day after will feature the Supersport TT Race 2 and Sidecar TT Race 2. A further rest day on Thursday the 6th of June will then be followed by 2 more races on Friday the 7th of June, which will remain an Isle of Man bank holiday. During that Friday will be the Super Stock TT Race 2 and Super Twin TT Race 2. The 2-week schedule is then due to conclude on Saturday the 8th of June with the Senior TT race. Exact times for sessions on each day are still to be confirmed, and all are subject to road closure approval by the Department of Infrastructure.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
A former House of Keys candidate appeared in court accused of possessing indecent images of children. Tessa Hawley was at Douglas Courthouse for Manx Radio.
The 55-year-old, who stood unsuccessfully in 2 general election campaigns in 2016 and 2021, has been charged with 6 offences in total. They include 2 of possessing electronic photographs of children and 3 of having hard copies on the 19th of May this year. He's also been charged with sending obscene articles by post. This relates to a sex doll which he allegedly produced to the Isle of Man via the Manx postal system on or about the 2nd of November 2021. The court was told Mr. Fowler is accused of having around 45 indecent images of young girls aged between 3 and 10 years of age. They allegedly span between level 1 and level 2 on the Copine scale, the system which categorises the severity of images of child sex abuse. An application for bail was granted and Mr. Fowler has been released with a number of conditions. These include that the gardener must not attend, enter, loiter near or be in the vicinity of any educational establishment, school, nursery, youth or sporting club where children may be. He's also forbidden from associating with any child under the age of 16, and his use of electronic devices and the internet is restricted. Mr. Fowler will next appear in court on the 29th of August.
As MGP draws closer, we hear from somebody who's known the ins and outs of the event over many years. Dave Madsen Migdal first took part in the MGP in 1981 and since then has racked up a huge amounts of starts and finishes at both MGP and TT. He's back with Rob Pritchard.
I think we all lived, life was different then. Most people didn't stay in the paddock, they all stayed in the guest houses. So that side was totally different, and you had to get back in your van in the morning to go back up the paddock. But now everything happens around the paddock. So that's one of the biggest changes. I mean, of course, we've had the numbers cut down. It used to be 115 maybe starters, and now it's been cut down to 60. So you seem to have less people here. But I would say it's a better class of riders now. You have got to be at a certain standard. I think it's Manx fantastic way of coming, to start. It's no point in coming to the TT. It does take you 3 years to learn the circuit. If you're a certain standard of rider, if you're top BSB boy or running in the top 20, and you do your homework, you're going to be quick. But you're good to start with. Normal people, I'm not saying everybody, but it takes 37 miles is a long way to learn. I'm one of the coaches for the Manx Grand Prix, but I've looked after a lot of newcomers, and they've done fairly well. I've had 3 or 4 winners as well in newcomer races at the Manx. It's a great way of learning.
It is a big year for the Manx Grand Prix, 2023 marking 100 years of the event, and just how important is it, not just to, I suppose, racing fans, but the Isle of Man and the part of its heritage and culture as a whole?
I think it's really important, to keep everything going. It's very hard because we are an island, and the population is increasing with the houses, and that. So that to actually run the event is getting more difficult. But we need the holiday traffic and the people coming to the island. But it's the 100 years. It does need celebrating. It's like most things. It's tradition.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Mothership Ben McCree departed Heysham at 4 minutes past 2. She's safely on the link span in Douglas now. Will be departing at 7:45, arriving in Heysham at 11:30. The overnight departure is at 2:15, back to Douglas at about 6 tomorrow morning. High-speed craft Manannan departed Douglas at 2 minutes to 3. She's in Liverpool right now. Will be on the link span fairly shortly, departing at 7:15 tonight, back to Douglas at 10. Tomorrow morning's departures, Manannan departs at 7 a.m. for Belfast, and the Ben McCree at 8:45 to Heysham.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
Plans for a new counselling service which could see people wait just 7 days for support are underway in the Isle of Man. It's hoped that the Brighter teaching model, which has already been rolled out in the UK, can be successfully rolled out on the Isle of Man to reduce waiting lists. Tommy Sylvester, who set up Brighter Teaching, explains how it works.
In the UK, I've set up a number of counselling services, and one thing that does work, which one of our services still running now, is using student counsellors. So for student counsellors to complete their qualification with us, usually it's 100 clinical hours of placement. The qualification that we undertake, it's 200 hours of clinical practice, and that then allows them to work in a real counselling environment with real people. Utilising the student is going to be more cost effective, and it will also allow the student to gain some experience, and it also then brings the waiting list of therapeutic services down. We started a service in the UK in 2018, and it was just with myself, and I was seeing 3 clients a week. Now our service has got about 40 therapists. That's between trained and student counsellors. Most students then stay with us, and our client group in the community are not waiting no longer than 7 days. So it's a 7-day turnaround, and that's still happening today. So we know that the model that we want to bring to the Isle of Man is the model that we've demonstrated in the UK, and it works. To put it bluntly, it's that 7 days can be life and death, and that's as simple as it can be. There's a massive waiting list for therapeutic services. Again, it's the same in the UK. So whatever we can do to help the community, anything is better than nothing.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 17 minutes before 6, the UK retailer Marks & Spencer has raised its half-year profit outlook after reporting strong sales growth in the first 19 weeks of the fiscal year. Notably, like-for-like food sales surged over 11% due to strategic pricing adjustments, while like-for-like clothing and home sales grew by more than 6%, driven by in-store performance. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. A Chinese shopping app called Temu has been downloaded over 9 million times since it launched in the UK just 4 months ago, the Sunday Times reported over the weekend. The bargain bin app's full of deals with trainers for $6.99, belts for $3.14 and baseball caps for $1.48. Beyond clothing, there's a host of gadgets on sale, including battery testers, weather clocks and infrared thermometer guns, as well as lots of other items. The app, which is littered with flash sales, has been launched in the West by Chinese e-commerce conglomerate PDD, which also owns the retail giant Pinduoduo. Temu's reportedly able to sell items at such low prices because it haggles with suppliers, cuts out middlemen and takes advantage of tax loopholes. If it's not entered your life yet, it could be just a matter of time till you find out about Temu.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European stocks slumped today on worries that the stronger than expected wage growth may prompt the Bank of England to continue rising interest rates. US stocks fell. Gold fell to a 1.5 half-month low as Treasury yields jumped after data showed US retail sales rose more than expected, and gold fell in early trade ahead of a slew of economic data from China. The numbers now from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down 1 0.6%, 7,389. The DAX in Frankfurt closed down 0.9% at 15,764. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial down 0.75% at 35,037. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index is down 0.33%, 13,697, and the S&P 500 is down 0.75% in Chicago at 4,455. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is trading at $1 27.3 cents, €1 16.5 cents, and 24 South African rand 36.5 cents. In commodities, gold up fractionally 0.06% at $1,907 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude is down 1 0.7% at $84.70.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Department of Environment, Food and Agriculture Minister Claire Barber MHK says people sometimes underestimate the amount of work that goes into farming to make the career a viable option. Claire Barber says it's vital that government continues to listen to and respond to farmers' concerns.
I think it's absolutely vital that government's creating a regulatory landscape, creating an opportunity to promote produce across the Isle of Man, so that it's not impossible to work within farming, and that's about working with various stakeholders and making sure we're listening, making sure we're responding. You know, we've got a number of schemes that do support farmers, but we also need to sense check. It's no good continuing down the route of something if the noise is saying that isn't working. And I think, as Ian said, there's huge amounts of positives around what farmers can and are doing. It almost becomes, I think, for some people, well, how difficult can it be to put some sheep in a field? Actually, you go and spend the time with those farmers. Bloody difficult, if I'm allowed to say that live on air. It really can be. It's huge amounts of work goes on. There's huge amounts of work around the arable sector, rotating the crops. They're also doing a load of work around sequestering carbon, whether that be through hedgerows, whether that be through actually the contribution to biodiversity and our ecology on the Isle of Man, flood risk management, land management. When we drive through the countrysides and we see those sheep and those cows and pigs grazing, and when we see those crops that have been put in, that hasn't just happened by accident. That has absolutely happened through years of hard work and management of the land. And it's absolutely right, we recognise that, and we work with the farmers to make sure that how we operate our schemes enables them to continue to do that in the future.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio Sport.
Faster My, Rob Pritchard.
Faster My, good evening. More from motorsport this evening, and several sidecar TT teams will undertake tyre tests at this year's Manx Grand Prix ahead of manufacturing changes to the class from next year. It follows the announcement that Avon Tyres, which produces tyres for the majority of outfits in the three-wheel class, are ceasing production at the end of this year after 119 years of operation. Hoosier Racing Tyres are now developing a compound for the sidecars after TT organisers held talks with numerous manufacturers. 4 sidecar teams, Ben and Tom Birchall, Ryan and Callum Crowe, Tim Reeves and Dave Molyneux, will do 4 laps during this year's MGP, with the new tyres to undergo visual, thermal and pressure inspections. Isle of Man TT Race's technical director David Hagan says it's more difficult in this situation as the outgoing manufacturer was the only tyre available, adding a lot of hard work has gone into finding another brand to take on the challenge. Mr Hagan also believes it'll be a big change for the sidecar class, and it's vital that the new tyres are up to the rigours of the TT course. Elsewhere, Manx equestrian star Yasmin Ingham says she's incredibly proud of her Team GB teammates after Ingham and they were crowned European eventing champions at the weekend. Ingham and her fellow Great Britain competitors took team gold at the event in Normandy, with Ingham's teammate Rosalind Cantor becoming the individual European champion in the process. Speaking on social media, Ingham from Greba is thanking all those who supported the riders and horses throughout the competition. It's been a busy year already for Yasmin, who claimed victory at an event in Germany last month and was also named Isle of Man Sportswoman of the Year for 2022 back in March. And in cycling, two of the Isle of Man's elite cyclists have been in action today during the Tour of Leuven in Belgium. Matthew Bostock for Bolton Equities Blackspoke and Tyler Hannay of Saint-Piran were among the competitors taking on a 193-kilometre route starting and finishing in Leuven. A difficult day for both squads meant neither Bostock or Hannay's teams were able to break into the top 10, with Lotto Destiny's Arnaud Delis taking victory.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 10 to 8 Loganair from London City's on time. The 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool, the returning patient transfer plane, is on time. And the 8:15 EasyJet from Gatwick currently showing on time inbound. Just a couple of departures tonight, the 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool. And then it's the 8:45 EasyJet back to London Gatwick. On the roads, Ballymena Road in Jerby's got phase closures for water main replacement, and north of Andrews, temporary lights on the Smale Road 24 hours a day for telecom work. In Port Sodrick, temporary lights on Quines Hill, they're doing some ditching work. And in Foxdale, near Foxdale, Garth Road's closed between Tossaby Road and the Foxdale Road for bridge replacement work. East Quay Peel closed between the House of Manannan and the road bridge for work on the road and pavement. Temporary lights on Victoria Road at the Falconcliffe Terrace Junction in Douglas for water main work. And also York Road's closed between Woodburn Road and Ballaquail Road for resurfacing. And Hillside Avenue in Douglas closed for adjacent office window replacement till the middle of June next year. Annika Road and Cushag Road in Farm Hill closed in phases for resurfacing. Temporary lights on Governors Road, Onken between Summerhill and Blackberry Lane for patching work. Temporary lights on Bulgham on the Coast Road there for wall repairs. And temporary lights on the Coast Road at Mackhold at Hibernia for telegraph pole replacement. Remember, the MGP starts this Sunday. The mountain roads open to two-way traffic through the NGP period. And closure times, well, for Sunday, the mountain course is closed from midday 45 till no longer than 6 this Sunday for MGP.
H&HMotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
People with disabilities could find it easier to access the beach in the Sunset City. A charity has relocated its beach wheelchair from Ramsey to Peel due to low take-up in the north. Beth Martin from Disability Networks and Hazel Hannon, the chair of Peel Commissioners, spoke to our local democracy reporter Emma Draper.
If you try and take a conventional wheelchair down on the sand or on the stones, you won't get anywhere. It's impossible. We've had a number of people who've used the chairs and they haven't been able to use the beach for years. They can't go with their families, and it just means that the whole family can access the beach, or the carers, and have that asset that with the rest of us just take for granted. They're really good on the sand. You can't take them on the stony beaches because it's a bit much for the tyres. You might pop your tyres. The likes of Ramsey Beach with a bit of shingle, absolutely fine, and obviously Peel and Port Erin, all that glorious sand. The first chair went to Ramsey because Ramsey had a lovely light slope to push it up and down when you've got someone sitting in it. And also when the tide goes out in Ramsey, you've got miles and miles of sand, nice firm sand that, you can really get going on. Put it into Outdoors Ramsey were really good and they stored it and maintained it. But we did find that because they were limited by their shop hours, it meant that Sundays and after 5, it wasn't accessible. So the usage was falling off. So we had a rethink because we wanted to honour the gift we'd been given by Stelton Manx. And so we rang up the commissioners in Peel, spoke to Hazel Hannon, who just absolutely leapt at the opportunity. So that's where it is now.
We've always had that thought that we might have it, and then we were offered it. So of course we grabbed it with both hands. We thought access to the shore was really good, for anybody with disabilities, and to be involved with other family members. One thing that has to be remembered about the wheelchair is that you do need somebody who is able to push it.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
Faster Mate, 6 minutes before 6. There's been no slowdown of people on the Isle of Man booking summer holidays. The view of one travel agent who says he believes travel is back to normal following COVID-19 and despite the cost of living pressures. From the online regional travel group, it's Brian Kelly.
Our age demographic, which is more the older traveller, they perhaps have a slightly different view on the cost of living. Some will be lucky enough to have cash deposits, which they're now getting in high interest rates, 4 or 5%. So they potentially have got a higher level of spend than perhaps what they had this time last year, although obviously the cost of living obviously is eating into that. But we're seeing no slowdown in relation to what we see as our general traveller. And the general traveller is now back to normal from COVID. And we're doing a huge amount of cruising. We've got obviously 2 companies now operating out of Liverpool. So you can actually go on the ferry to Liverpool and cruise out of Liverpool, which I think is very convenient, particularly for our older client. I think 1 in 3 of our bookings these days are cruise bookings, so it's very popular. There are trends in relation to the younger person, and we're seeing the Canaries being very popular, Croatia, Cyprus, Montenegro, and the traditional Spanish islands are always popular, and Portugal. In relation to Turkey and Egypt, we're seeing Egypt being very popular, but not so much Turkey, and we're not too sure why that's the case.
Are you noticing budgets becoming more constrained with the cost of living?
Yeah, I think we're certainly seeing that within the younger generation. Obviously, with increased mortgage, increased operating costs on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, as a family, they're more conscious as to what their budget is for a holiday. And I think certainly there's a lag built into 23. Pre-COVID, a wall of cash wanting to get away. It's all been talked about, and I think that certainly has been realised. But will we now start to see a major slowdown as we run through to 24? At the moment, we're as busy as ever, so we're not sort of seeing that on a day-to-day basis at the moment.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Chanel Suku, producer Rhiann Evans. After the news at 6, Simon Clark and Kiri Kermode with Countryside. The Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30. The Folk Show with John Barker at 9, and Dave's back tonight with After Hours at 10. I'm Andy Wint, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
WINT